Well, I'm assuming for those who watch these videos for the first time, may think, oh my God, we got to strip back to naked, can't go back to Eden, no clothes, and all that sort of stuff. But that's not what Kingdom's all about. The mudroom of Kingdom is a transition where we are conscious of cutting back on supporting all the harm doing. And in doing that, it's about recreating lifestyles that lives for the cutting back of this harm doing, and that whether we achieve it in this generation or the generations to come, where we've extricated the extremes of this harm doing that I've covered in the videos, in this video series. For example, like a bobby pin, a safety pin, a paper clip, a pen, a piece of paper. And we can go on and on and on, like from toilet brushes, garbage bins sitting next to toilets, toilets themselves with plastic lids. The extent of what we are using for the system lifestyles we have supports a vast intelligence effort, an effort of intelligence to do immense harm. Because you can't, to stop and concentrate on just like, for example, the bobby pin, and look at its relationship and how it was made and all the things that go through to produce it for us to go and buy from the shop and then use it, and the things we use in association with it. It's just brain-boggling for me anyway. I just think that the scale of harm doing, and that we are mostly not truly conscious of this enormity of harm. So Kingdom is not a place for space cadets to drop out and run away. It's not for it's not about being naive and playing silly mind games. It's just simply being conscientious enough to want to stop supporting this lifestyle and do whatever we have to do to cut it back and cut it back. So, land will never be free while we still claim that we own it. Because by association, we need the system to protect what we claim that we own. And then we play the game of first and last, rich and poor, have and have-nots. Because you can't play first without someone playing last. You can't play rich without someone playing poor. So the inculcation in the education forms these dualities that we are brought up in this intelligence, this matrix intelligence of extreme harm. So we end up with scarcity, mediocrity. But if we were brought up by nature, we don't think about first and last, rich or poor, haves and have-nots. We don't think about what's in it for me at the cost of somebody else. We don't even think about, this is not even, comes into even calculation with thinking about any of this stuff. But unless we become conscious we stop playing the game of haves and have-nots and stop playing out first and last, we're not going to break this thing down enough. We won't break it down. So I liken the system as a matrix. It's like an intelligence network of information that supports harm. And that what forms our personalities in the system are the characters of that delivery of harm doing. Because you can't, if we're brought up by nature, that intelligence through the good heart doesn't produce that in us. But being raised in the system amongst alphabets and all that, it will. So Kingdom is about withdrawing, cutting down on supporting these lies of haves and have-nots, of first and last, rich and poor, right and wrong, good and bad, and all that stuff. And with it, cutting back on the relationship we have with things we use that require vast amounts of brothers and sisters who've had to be brought up in the wheels of the machine of the system, has become blue collars, white collars, etc. And they need to have money. They've got to make money because they need the money to be able to do all the basics of life, to have access to water, food, shelter. All this is a lie. We have to end this. So Kingdom is about ending all of this, to stop it, that we don't need to live like this anymore. if we keep supporting the matrix and allowing everyone to be created out of the intelligence of the matrix itself, then we have zombies and drones, all of us, who are just totally incapable of dealing with this issue. Because we'll keep thinking, oh, it's too big, it's too much, we can't do it, we're crazy. And people think I am crazy for even taking on this that I've been taking on for these last 16 years. But I don't see any other way to live. Even though I can see so many of my issues, shit that I carry, has come from the intelligence of the matrix that I was brought up in. It doesn't stop me from wanting to change it so that I can actually have something more peaceful that I feel about life itself, and that I'm not contributing to this intelligence network that allows us to produce psychopaths. Because the amount of harm doing we're doing to kids, some of them will come through and become serious psychopaths behind big corporations who make terrible decisions that harm a lot of people. And and everybody's, when you're brought up like that, it's rank and file. You're basically numbers. Now, this is not a love. When we use the word love, to me it means nurturing, caring, things like that. But to us, to me, kingdom is about nurturing life, being conscious of what we're nurturing, and being conscious to withdraw nurturing relationships we have with things that require immense harm doing. And so the mudroom is there to practice these skill sets, how we can change living like this, without being space cadets, without being dropouts, without being nutcases and all this kind of stuff, because we're not. Already, just being in the system, supporting it, is already enough evidence of the insanity of this thing, with war and chaos and extreme battles amongst each other over nothing. We're fighting over things that are fictions, fictions within fictions within fictions, where kingdom is about withdrawing from nurturing fiction, the harm doing, the practices of ways of life that support harm doing. One of the big views that I feel is that we've learned how to butter up, package our harm doing in presentable ways that are palatable and acceptable in our working relationships, in the way we live, and in the way we create children and have marriages, and the way we just generally socialize together. And what I get to see is that working with the intelligence of the matrix, the personalities that are created, that become fused in that intelligence of the matrix, which keeps us confined in it, produces men and women, us, who live with harm, who condone it and support it and will acquiesce to harm on multiple ways, in multiple ways. And we say that we love you, we love nature, and we love life, and we love our partner, we love our kids, when actually we don't at all. We don't nurture them. We don't nurture life. We actually harm them, because we're exposing them to so much fiction, so much harm doing in so many different ways, that all the while we have a smile, and we create birthdays and birthday parties and Christmas parties and Easter and all the celebrations that we have all through system life. To me, it's one big farce. It's just one big joke, because we're actually celebrating our ruthlessness and our inability to stop it or to cut it back. Because that's what I've said in the other videos. We say we love our kids, we actually say we hate them, because we do. We allow the harm to come into their lives. We expose them to so many things where harm is happening to them, or that they're supporting harm. And they learn to become desensitized, learn to accept and live with it, that this is the norms, that the world we live in is always going to have harm like this. And so we rape, pillage, and plunder, use and abuse each other. And this is just insane. It's rubbish. You can stop it. We can stop it. To truly nurture our children and to say we love them means that they have true freedom, that they are truly conscious, that they're not supporting harm. They're not acting as a dumbed-down drone who's not capable of comprehending their actions and the relationship they have with harm doing, and how they can withdraw and learn to not support it, because that is loving and nurturing children, not raising our children up in education systems and encourage them to go into the workforces and all this sort of stuff and work with money and play the have and have-nots and the first and last and the rich and poor, and then go through coveting other people and having people coveting you, and everyone, you're getting all around you, well done, success, good on you, pat on the back, when really the degeneration of life itself is continuing, because everything about our lifestyle is supporting this degeneration. And in that, how we do that with each other, how we do that with our relationships, and how we have the relationship with just who we are, each of us. The scale of harm, the psychological, the emotional, that's all connected, the way we're thinking, and the lifestyles that come out of them is the issue, because it belongs inside the matrix of this intelligence that came from the books, from these invaders who inculcated us and brainwashed everybody. And you may find it difficult to think, oh, well, that's normal. It's not normal. It's not normal to physically chop down a forest because we think we should, that we need to do that. It's not normal that we have to fence off animals and then cull them and kill them, treat them as numbers, and put them through the abattoirs and treat them the way we treat them. Look, there's so many videos out there on this kind of harm doing that I don't need to be covering it. All I'm getting at is that Kingdom is just simply getting back to living local. With those of us who want to live locally in a small community, small tribe, where we're conscientious of cutting back. We're not going to stop it all straight away. It's impossible. I mean, without going completely into the wilderness and strip naked and live like that. That can be done. It's possible. But I'm not up for that. But I'm up for the transition. And I'm up for a gradualism of just learning to let go and let go, and learn to live simpler and simpler. Learn to tread lightly on the ground. Learn to care for nature more and more. Learn how to create abundance, living abundance of just amazing proportion. Learning how to work with magnificence and having magnificent attitudes. And so that we are withdrawing from supporting this harm doing. If any of you do stop and just think through just one item that you use in the system that's a fiction, and you were to just sit and write it out, and the relationship it has in every facet, you'll be staggered as it explodes into a huge volume of information. And all of it is harm doing, and it subjugates so many of our brothers and sisters who have to become the cogs in the wheels, of the blue collars, white collars, laborers, administrators, etc. For us to have these items, and the relationship each item has with another item, and another item, and another item, and another item of fiction. And it's so out of control, and we think we can't stop it, because we need all these things, when actually we don't need them all. We don't. We can actually learn to drop. So Kingdom and the Mudroom is about doing a pretty good drop from the beginning, and then recycling all this harm doing, all this fiction, to creating a community hub where the bond of the tribe is fused, where the connection with nature is becoming paramount, and how we rebuild abodes, and we will work on creating life without relying on being on the grid, completely on the grid with power, gas, electricity, oil. And so the Mudroom, there'll be a transition with this, but we'll cut it down. But more than that, it's having that attitude where we're nurturing and raising up our brothers and sisters around us, because we're nurturing life. So if we're going to nurture life, there's no more us in the picture. It's like a portrait. I keep talking about a portrait. And in the foreground is us, ourself, and in the background is our life in relation to everything. We have to wipe out the foreground. We don't need to be there. None of us need to be there to think for ourselves, because our life is already in the background and it's really already in the foreground. We're already alive. It's already happening. We just got to think about caring and nurturing for everyone else around us and live for that. Live for that nurturing of life. Live for that nurturing of life. Just keep living for that nurturing of life. And in doing so, cutting back. So we're withdrawing from self-obsession, from self-centeredness, from what's in it for me, what's mine, I, me, mine, own, all these things. Because it only happened because we've been taught about first and last, rich and poor, good and bad, have and have-nots. And we've got to think, we've got to get there. Got to, dog eat dog. It's capitalism. We've got to make the best we can do with what we've got. We've got to drop all this and not play it out with anybody. We never want to play it out with anyone, any of this stuff. So, Kingdom is just being conscious enough to create a way of life where life is nurtured. We're producing healthy food, organic food, living food, creating the sustainability of food forests that feed us, and learning to undo the highly traumatic, toxic habits we have, if through taste buds and through addictions with system things, fiction things, that propel us to keep staying in the intelligence networks of the matrix where these things belong. Because anything to do with the matrix has got nothing to do with Kingdom. And everything to do with the matrix that's fiction has nothing to do with nature at all. There's no relationship between it at all. It's like an alien world imposed on us, performing the most horrific alien things to each other. And there's more than enough evidence. There's more than enough of each of us realizing the scale of and the propensity of this form of harm doing that we live in and support. So Kingdom's about changing the way we are, our attitude, in changing the relationships we have with each other. So we're not working from the emotions, the destructive emotions anymore. They may come up, but we learn to consciously not let it play out. So one of the things that I try to help others with, which is what we work with ourselves, is that when this stuff comes up, I say, well, hi, thank you. I noticed it. Thank you for your offer, whatever it is that's going on. Don't fight it. Allow it to be there. But just get back to the lifestyle that you want to live, or you're nurturing life. So you're gradually ignoring it. You're learning to ignore it, not giving it any power, because we give power to these thought forms, these entities, these demons, man-made projections of intention that have evolved through our acquiescence and compliance to these images. We give it so much energy, and it's passed down through the generations. And it's part of the centrifugal of the intelligence network of the matrix, where it belongs in there. And everything we give to it strips us of everything of life, and to hand it over into the matrix, where we're left with nothing. We've got nothing. And that's why we see divorce everywhere, and why we see people breaking up all over the place. And it is extreme. Don't get me wrong, there are good people who really work hard to keep things together, keep their families together, keep things strong. And I get that. It does happen. And I've met people like this. But generally speaking, it's just decaying. And with all the coronavirus that was coming at everyone, and all that fear porn, the war now, Ukraine and Russia. And then you look at all the issues now with food shortages. And it's these undertones that are spreading out now. And we're hearing about all kinds of other consequential things as derived from of this form of harm doing, where we're seeing the decay of nature. It's like a cancer that's spreading that we've got no control of. And the decay of the sickness in us, where we're dropping off with heart attacks and all kinds of fatal diseases. Is because it's coming out of that central intelligence network of the matrix, where the harm doing, supporting harm doing, and the distortion of nature. Like when you go to nature, the information of nature directly is pure and sincere. So you don't go in there to corrupt it. We don't go and alter that information, turn it into fiction, and claim that this is part of life. But because we're doing that, and we're spreading that, and we call it our system lifestyles, because that stuff comes into our homes, our abodes, into our transport, into our communication networks, into our clothing, into our diets. And we're smelling it and hearing and seeing this distortion that we're doing. We're feeding this terrible sickness because this is anti-life. We're not nurturing life. We actually hate life. And everyone that we say we love, who we support with this harm, we actually hate them. We're actually not loving them at all. We're not nurturing them. And this confusion is so powerful. And this is what kingdom is so important, to learn to face this confusion and to have the confidence that there is a way to break this thing down, to stop it, and really stop it. And if we have enough of us working together like this, we can really break this thing down powerfully. Sure, we use money, use the system to get things going, but money ain't going to fix this. All the fictional things will not fix any of this. We have to have a bigger dream, a bigger picture, and use to transform the fiction to building the bridge that takes us from the system out of that central intelligence networks of the matrix, where all the personalities are formed in it and belong in it. Because everyone you meet in the system is a drone. All of us, we are drones of the matrix with fake personalities. There's no real man there because we never created these dreams. They're not our dreams. So kingdom's about creating our dreams without this stuff going on, and learning how to work together to create do no harm lifestyles, and learning how to work together to cut back, and learning how to create clothes together, learn how to create food together and store food together, learning how to get all the basics back. And from that, building the joy of the full responsibility for caring for our lives, where we're not answerable to anyone else. We're just answerable to make sure that the best for the community that we are part of is taken care of, because each of us lives for that life, because we nurture life. And in doing that, each of us nurturing for the greater good of our community, our tribe, our village. Then we all raise each other up. We're the wind under each other's wings. And this, bit by bit, we can see a way out. Instead of going, oh, I can't, it's too much. We're not even going to progress to do anything about it. While we're sitting on. So a lot of us, because of this, we sit on our mortgages, we sit on our parents' homes, we sit on the money we got, and we get into our creative interests, and we try and keep ourselves busy getting into arts or traveling or whatever. But we're actually not facing the problem and actually changing our lifestyle so that the lifestyle would support a creativity of art naturally without supporting the system where all this harm is happening. So we don't want to support a lifestyle that deprives man of not having freedom with land. This is the massive issues, this thing over land. And the idea you have to buy and sell and you got to work for money. All these fictions that don't even exist, and you got to work for what? I mean, from what I'm looking at, this scale through the wars that we've had and all the working and hard working has led us to this chaos. And then you think of all the mothers and fathers who love their kids, who truly love their kids. And you look at this mess we've arrived at. So the collective efforts brought us to an event of immense apocalyptic proportions, because we don't want to look at the personality we carry that belongs in the matrix lifestyle, that feeds this devastation, that is that rolling stone out of control that we've become part of, and that we feel hopeless to do anything to change it when we actually can and can be seen to be doing it. So the goal of making these videos and doing the Love Life work was to give a bigger picture to all the intricacies that's compromised us, that's make us do what we do, to reveal the hypocrisy of each of us, because we're all hypocrites, and to show the complicity in the harm doing that we condone, acquiesce and comply to, nurture. So this is what kingdom's about. Do you want to stop? withdraw from this as best you can. With others, you can do the best they can. It's not creating something magical or mystical or mysterious. It's just simply withdrawing from supporting harm as much as we can. Which means we don't covet land. We don't claim ownership over land. We don't covet children and brainwash children. So we can see all the consequences when we do that. We don't go harming nature and then provide that or support that to those we care for, who are only going to be harmed by these things that they're breathing and smelling and tasting and touching and hearing and seeing, which makes us, well, Jekyll and Hyde. So Kingdom is a celebration, a commitment to surrender the system, to surrender our personalities, system lives, our personality attachments to all system securities, to prepare to destroy it all and hand it over to a kingdom, not as in communism or communalism, because they're all white-anting the truth of this thing, but as a celebration of life where the true freedom of every man is honored and respected. And with each of us being accountable for our actions, we never dare want to covet anybody else for anything. And to make sure that the greater good for everyone has got that freedom. Freedom to create their beautiful dreams. Freedom to be able to not have to wake up to hear war and threats of war coming to their doorstep because of this madness of the matrix intelligence network spreading everywhere, engulfing everybody, coming at you through the television and the iPods and the internet and social media, coming at you all the time, things that have nothing to do with living local, with nature. It's just a concerted effort. And if we are to all be murdered for this, well, at least we're living a lifestyle and we'll carry on that lifestyle, even though our bodies may take us. And I'm just being realistic. There are people out there who hate you for doing this, who hate me for talking like this. But I'm not going to live in fear and cling to a fiction lifestyle with fake personality that was crafted by others. So I quiver and live in the matrix of this destructive emotional, I guess formatted reality that's predetermined by these occultists. The fact that I don't want to support bloodletting and blood libel and all the emotional stuff that comes up. We actually can change it. So I think that's all Kingdom is. It's just that concerted effort that in spite of what's been thrown at us, in spite of how big the mountain may be, in spite of sometimes we're engulfed by this emotion, in spite of what we think that we've been a failure, or that we find it's just too hard, or we've been left alone, there's not much support, because many of us go through this, that we can actually still do something and surpass these chains that hold us back into the matrix. So we're locked into the relationships with everybody else who have matrix personalities, where the true way of life is not allowed, not accepted, and been written off in every possible way ever since this scam was started, long ago. Including Big Bang, Darwinism, dinosaurs, Dark Ages, Neanderthal man, all these things. We never ever came from scarcity, mediocrity. We never came from being dumbed down and stupid. We came from a full working brain and learning how to ignore most of it as we shut down our abilities to work with like a pea-size part of the brain. And we've dreamt it this way, and we've created it this way because life's in our image. We're responsible, each of us responsible for this. So it's no magic bullet out there, some waiting moment where this is going to happen. It's simply, do you want to do it? Because this is what I'm up for. And be seen to be doing it. Now, do I go and just take some land? Take a piece of land that no one is going to be harmed by? Or do we just use the system, use our smarts, we pull resources together, play the game that these people want, play Caesar's well, give Caesar what Caesar wants, and take a big piece of land and just build a kingdom right in the middle of their world and show them that we're not intimidated, that there is another way to live. We don't have to live in fear. We don't have to live and support pedophilia and all the using, abusing. And this is, when you peel back the system, the scale of child sacrifice and abuse to children and child slavery and the market of children being sold around the world is staggering. It is staggering. And it seems to be this is what Putin is discovering in the Ukraine right now, uncovering huge problems about this stuff. But this is going on in every other Western world country and has been for a long time. It says a lot about us as people, about our values and lifestyles. And this stuff permeated behind television and Hollywood and social media and current affairs and all the soap operas that were made through television. Because we're playing against each other, and now we have MMA and all that and boxing and we fight each other. For what? What are we proving? Money that doesn't exist, a domination over another man, which is fiction, doesn't exist, using and abusing anyone just for the sake of getting something you want from them because you want to rape, pillage, and plunder. You don't get anything out of this. All we're doing is creating more harm. And in spite of how desensitized we may be into the consequences, the harm is coming at us in big waves. It comes back at us. And so kingdom is about stopping it. Just stopping it. We don't need religion to fix this. We don't need the rule of law to fix this because they're fictions. We don't need all of the system to fix it. But if we're smart, we can use some of the system to get these things settled and establish these hubs of small communities and just get on with it. And no looking back, not being Lot's wife, turning to pillar of salt, looking back and getting caught up in the emotions and the doubt, the uncertainty and the distrust, the suspicion and fear, which is all through the system. It's behind leases and mortgages. It's behind rent. It's behind every facet of that system because the doubt and the uncertainty for tomorrow's security, tomorrow's food on the table, making sure that our kids and we're doing well and we're seen to be good people. All these things are played on us to manipulate us. And it's not just that, it's played out in multiple ways. So many ways, it's staggering. So Kim's about stopping this. It's not a competition. Nurturing life is not a competition. It's not a dog-eat-dog. Why would you want to create a world around us where this kind of dog-eat-dog is going on? Because eventually it just comes close to your own home until it takes you over as well. And what we're relying on, the factories and all the things that produce all the things we go to the shops to buy, is supporting this wave of annihilation sweeping our way to swallow us up as well. So there's no point just hiding behind and saying, oh, that's all too big and I'll just get on with my little private life. Worry about my own little creative interests. Let the world go by. It doesn't work like that. You're going to be swallowed up. The monster will come to your door too and eat you too. The monster's coming to everyone's door, this beast phenomena, this matrix, and eat everyone. It's the greatest grim reaper we've ever created, of our own doing. And there's no respite from this. It is absolute what we've done, the terror of what we've created here. So kingdom is all that matters. That's it.